So I've been wanting to get this up and running for a while, but I have the very lowest end Intel K SKU. This is a first gen i5 655K. So what this CPU is, it's a dual core, and it has an unlocked multiplier. It's kind of a weird one, but it's the very lowest end one, and I want to get it up and running. So in order to do that, I have this brand new and in-box complete Asus motherboard that's compatible with it. It's a P7P55D LE. And then I have two CPUs here that are compatible with early BIOS revisions, and then a whole bunch of RAM. We're going to try and get it up and running, and one of these CPUs might come in handy to need to update the BIOS. Wasn't kidding. It's brand new and everything's still in its original packaging. Even an old school IDE cable for an old hard drive. It's actually really nice. This motherboard's from like 2009-ish, and they include these two pieces that allow you to connect your front HD audio and your front panel case connections for like the power button, the reset button, and stuff like that. You connect them onto here, and then you plug it all into your motherboard all at once. And that's nice for a motherboard of this time frame, because the cases around this time, a lot of times they had all those little connectors all separate as individual little pins. And it was such a pain having to plug them all in. If I am able to get this up and running, it's going to be a setup for me to run classic Windows XP games. It actually lists here that it's Windows 7 ready, so we know this is from at least 2009, because that's when Windows 7 came out. And there's our brand new boxed motherboard, and wow. Pretty cool seeing something this old that's still like untouched in its original box. Considering this is from 2009 and we're here in 2026. But yeah, I can definitely tell looking at this that it has not been used. It's immaculate. There's not a speck of dust anywhere on this thing. And kind of another way you can tell how old this is, it does have an 8-pin connection for the CPU. You can look at the side of it and see that it's 8 pins. They actually cover up the 4 pins there because most power supplies at this time didn't have 8 pins. They only had 4. They wanted to make sure you were plugging it into the right half of that connection. The power supply we're going to use has 8 pins, so we're going to remove this, this little cover, if I can. Yeah, I just had to get a better grip on it. So kind of a throwback, and a way that you can tell the age of this motherboard is the rear I/O. And you can see there's no USB 3.0 at all. It's all just USB 2.0. But you have eSATA. Now, eSATA allowed you to connect up an external hard drive that would run at native SATA speeds. So it would run just as fast as something inside your PC. The thing is, I don't know how old the BIOS is on this thing, so I'm going to use this i5 750, and that's supported by one of the very first BIOS revisions on this board. This doesn't have like a BIOS flashback type of feature like you'd get on a modern motherboard, so I have to actually boot it with something that it's already compatible with, and then probably flash it to something compatible with the 655K that I want to use. And yes, I am aware the i5 750 is a quad-core CPU compared to the i5 655K, which is only dual-core. I am aware that it is a lesser amount of cores, but for the stuff that I'm planning to use this for, which is just like Windows XP games, it's not actually going to use 4 cores. So it's actually better for me to have a fast dual-core processor afterward. So kind of a little interesting side note, it doesn't actually notate on this motherboard which slots you're supposed to use first. So I had to look in the manual to find out that information. And what I found out is that, yeah, it is the blue slots here that are supposed to be used first. So I'm going to go ahead and throw in a couple of these OCZ sticks these OCZ sticks of RAM. Here we go. I can show you one is DDR3 1600, and it specifically says supports Core i7 right on the heat spreader, which I think that's kind of cool, given that this is going to be a Intel, you know, kind of period correct. Oh, there was actually some plastic peel still on this thing. Windows XP kind of gaming PC. So we're going to get that all hooked in there. We've got 4 gigs of RAM now, two 2 gig sticks. Now, while it's not going to be the final cooler that I use, and I know it's not completely ideal, the only actual spare cooler I had for this socket, it's one from a pre-built HP Omen gaming PC. And it's just an aluminum puck, so definitely not one I want to use long term, but it is compatible, which is kind of the important part for testing this thing. All right, cooler's installed, so we just got to hook up our main power cord, along with our 8-pin CPU connection. And then especially for the purposes of flashing a BIOS, I want to use a period correct GPU. And so we're using a Gigabyte GT240. This has an aftermarket cooler installed, but that doesn't really matter here. The important part here is this thing actually does have HDMI, which not all graphics cards from this time frame have HDMI, and that makes it much easier for me to test this thing. Now let's flick the power switch. And I'm going to take a look at my monitor and see what I'm getting. So it's actually failing to post right now, and I'm getting an LED light here. That is specifying a memory problem. I'm going to flip the power supply off and wait for my green LED here to go out, and that's going to indicate that the power is actually fully drained. That might take a second. There we go. And I'm actually just going to reseat the RAM. I'm going to unplug it, plug it back in. With how old this RAM is and how old this motherboard is, totally possible that it just doesn't have a good connection after being seated only once. So I'm going to get it in there a second time. Here we go. And I'm just going to send it a second time here, see if I'm getting a good post this time. I'm actually getting the same light. Maybe it's a bad stick of RAM. So I don't know what just randomly made me think of this, but I just remembered that i5 750, it might not actually work. It came in a lot of CPUs that I bought a long time ago, and I just realized I think it might be dead. I'm trying something else now. So after a little too much time deciding what to do, I realized I have a case speaker that I could hook up. So I hooked that up right here, and now I'm going to actually hear if there's a post code or something that's being tripped. Maybe. No, we're still not hearing anything. I don't understand. Okay, so clearing the BIOS is right here. I guess I could give that a try. It also could just have a dead CMOS battery because it's been in the box for, what, 16, 17 years. And I have seen weirder things before where a system just refuses to post because it has a bad CMOS battery. I can't rule that out here, I guess. No, we're still getting this RAM light. I think either that I have some bad RAM, or it just really doesn't like these OCZ sticks. So I grabbed a super basic, like 2 gig stick of DDR3 here. I'm going to see if I get anything different. It hiccuped for a second. We have post, folks. I'm going to see if I can get in the BIOS here and see what my BIOS revision is on this board. I really want to see. So it's on revision 0403. That is one of the earliest. Yeah. Yeah, so see, we're here at the post screen. We've got BIOS revision 0403. We're going to need to update that. So I grabbed the latest BIOS file, and it is on this flash drive right here. Let's do the flash update. And this is one of the very first motherboards that lets you do a BIOS flash right directly here. And this is great, because this makes it much easier. Are you sure? Yes, let's hope we don't get any power outages. Would be really unfortunate. And as you guys know, BIOS updates often address issues with memory compatibility. So I'm wondering, once we update this, if we'll be able to also use my OCZ RAM that has those i7 labels on it. Okay, it just said on my screen that the update was done. Let's see what we get on my screen here. Waiting patiently for post. Hey, look at that. BIOS revision 2101, and that's the newest. Awesome. So I actually want to try my other RAM first, so I'm going to power this off. I said I want to power this off. Thank you. And yeah, let's take out my plain Jane green stick of DDR3. And I'm going to go ahead and load up our OCZ. I'm actually going to start strong and just go full for it. Do 2 sticks. Might as well try and see if I can get dual channel to work, right? If I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna do it. Here we've got the 2 sticks installed. Toss my graphics card back on here with its aftermarket cooler. It's a little bit silly with the aftermarket cooler. It has a separate fan header, so I'm having to plug in its fan each time. But yeah, we'll give this a try right now. And hey, we're fully posted with that OCZ RAM. And yeah, I want to see if I can get this RAM to run at full speed though. And this is such an old school BIOS, it took me a second to find the option, but it's actually under AI Overclock Tuner, which is really, really funny to me. XMP. And then you can choose profile 1 or 2. Profile 1 is our 1600 megahertz RAM. Let's give that a try. And we are rebooting with our XMP enabled. With any luck, we'll get a beep. Yeah, we're stuck on a RAM light again. Maybe there is something going on here. So I think what I've determined here is it might actually be our processor that's causing a kind of a bottleneck, if you will. That RAM is rated for 1600, but the CPU is only rated for 1333 on RAM, and it might not actually like going that far above. This is a first-gen product, so I'm going to try swapping in our i5 655K, because that's a die-shrunk later CPU, and it might work better with that RAM. So I was thinking about it as I was changing everything around, and it actually kind of makes sense that this thing didn't like the 1600 on at least the 760. And the reason I say that is because this point in time, the nice. So yeah, we're posted with the 655K, but at this point in time, DDR3, generally you didn't run 1600. Most stuff ran 1333 anyway. So it's not entirely surprising, but yeah, we're gonna try and get this running at 1600, and we have some more settings here we can play around with. This has to do with overclocking the CPU, because this is like I said, a multiplayer unlocked CPU, and it's the lowest end one that ever existed. So we're going to give this a try. Hopefully we get a beep. I think we're running at 1600. That's awesome. So I found the options to turn off Quick Boot and turn off that big logo on the screen, so I'll be able to see a little bit better what's actually going on during post. Yeah, 1600. That's super awesome. Nice. So yeah, there you have it, guys. This is our P7P55D LE. This is an Asus motherboard. This is going to wind up in my Windows XP gaming PC, and it's going to have a little bit different GPU, and we'll figure out the rest of the specs at a later date. But thanks for watching while I unboxed and set up and updated this motherboard that's 17 years old from being brand new in box. Take care.